Many great fights have been made recently, the best of which is Song Yadong versus Rob Font, which is in the works for the August pay-per-view card. And I believe that this matchup in the bantamweight division gives us a ton of clarity. And in my opinion, this basically somewhat confirms Petr Yan versus Marlon Vera, Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo, and Corey Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov next in the bantamweight division. I'm going to be talking about that at the end of the video, but let's start straight away with the fight that was announced as in the works today. Big Marcel posted it. It is Song Yadong versus Rob Font. A massive matchup at UFC 292 in Boston, August the 19th. This is a massive matchup. I like that it's on the card of UFC 292 as well, because that will likely have the main event of Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. So it's good to have another bantamweight spotlight fight on that card. In the rankings, you've got Rob Font at number 7, Song Yadong at number 8. This is a really, really good matchup, and I'm really, really looking forward to it, because this is a true tester fight for an upcoming bantamweight prospect. Rob Font isn't like a gatekeeper to the top 15. He's a gatekeeper to the top 5. If you beat Rob Font, you're getting a title elimination bout pretty much the majority of the time that you beat a level of opponent like Rob Font. Very, very good. Coming off a massive win over Adrian Yanez. So he has back a lot of momentum right now, even though maybe he lost it after the losses back-to-back, and then he had that Marlon Vera loss that was really bad, and I didn't even want to pick him against Adrian Yanez because of the amount of damage that he took in that Marlon Vera fight, but he turned it all around, and I think he is a really dangerous test for Song Yadong. But Song Yadong hits hard, man. He hits really hard, and he's powerful, and he's quick, and he's patient, and he's got experience, and he's had main events of fight nights, and the pressure's been on him, and he's shined very bright when the pressure's on him as well. This isn't an Adrian Yanez where it's an up-and-coming contender who I thought was going to beat Rob Font anyway, but he ended up getting finished in the first round. Oh well, my predictions living up to their expectations once again. But Adrian Yanez was a guy who hadn't really beaten anyone good outside the rankings, had a fight with Davy Grant that went to a split decision that arguably he should have lost. I mean, there were some red flags there going into that fight with Rob Font, but I was just thinking there's no way Font is ever going to be the same after the damage that he took against Marlon Vera, because he took so much damage in that fight that often you don't see guys return from that. But Font showed how tough he is, bounced back the same way Calvin Kattar bounced back against Giga Chikadze after that beating against Max Holloway, and now he's got another top contender, and this does confirm a bunch of other fights in the bantamweight division. I am going to side with Song Yadong in this matchup. I think he's got the momentum right now. He had a great performance against Ricky Simone, and again, Yanez was that guy who hadn't beaten anyone great outside the rankings, got by against Davy Grant in a very controversial decision, but Song Yadong has been beating ranked level opponents. You know what I mean? Like, Ricky Simone is a top 10 level bantamweight in my opinion. Like, he fits right in with the top 10 of the bantamweight division, and he can mix it up with any of them. So I think Rob Font is in for a bit of trouble here. Song Yadong looked really good against Ricky Simone, stuffed all of the takedowns. Now, Rob Font beat Ricky Simone as well, but there was something about the way that Song Yadong broke down Ricky Simone and landed those shots the way he did and put him away in the later rounds and stuffed the takedowns and got right back up whenever there was a takedown, and just the hand speed on the feet. You know what I mean? The educated striking that he had. Like, Yanez had really good striking, but we hadn't really seen that extra panache on it against a decent level of opponent like we have with Song Yadong. In fact, I shouldn't have picked Yanez against Rob Font in hindsight, because he kind of got exposed against Davy Grant, you know what I mean? Whereas Song Yadong, he had a close fight with Vera, who can beat up on Davy Grant on his best night, you know what I mean? So, and Song Yadong has a win over Marlon Vera. I didn't agree with the decision, but it was a very close fight, and you can argue that Song Yadong is a very close fight when you rewatch it. I know I made a massive deal about it, but I've rewatched the fight recently, and it was a very competitive, close fight. So he's definitely top level, but is Rob Font going to be too good for him, is the question. Is Rob Font going to be too good at striking and just make some massive exposing statement on the main card of UFC 292? That's the question. I don't think he is. I think Song Yadong will find the shots that he needs to land on Rob Font, and if he wins this one, he's looking at a top contender next, 100% in the top 5, and then after that, he's going to get a title elimination bout. But I want to talk about this as well. Do I talk about it now? Yes, I'll talk about this now, and then we'll get to the other fight announcements that have recently been made. I want to talk about this because this fight gives clarity to the entirety of the bantamweight division. We have a ton of fighters right now that are sitting out waiting for a matchup. I don't think anyone inside the top 10 Other than maybe Pedro Munoz, I'm not sure. Maybe he has a matchup. Maybe he doesn't. I think he just fought Chris Gutierrez, so maybe he doesn't have a matchup. But everyone definitely inside the top 9 doesn't have a matchup right now in the bantamweight division. There are some presumed matchups that are going to be happening, and that's what I want to say now. Rob Font versus Song Yadong. Number 7 versus number 8. Basically, in my opinion, let me know if you agree or not, confirms Petr Yan versus Marlon Vera next. Corey Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov, and Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo, and Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley. This matchup gives us clarity to matchmake the entirety of the bantamweight division moving forward, and we can expect all of those fights that I just listed being made at some point before the end of 2023, which I'm really looking forward to, because we were going to do Petr Yan versus Rob Font, and then maybe Marlon Vera versus Song Yadong too. I guess they want to try and keep the matchups fresh and make the Yan-Vera matchup while they can, instead of missing that opportunity to have that fight night main event. But Rob Font versus Song Yadong ended up being made. They kept the matchups fresh. That means Petr Yan, Marlon Vera will now be made. Maybe the winners will take on each other, and then the winner of that final matchup will get a top contender to get their title shot back. And then we've got Corey Sandhagen, Merab, and Henry Cejudo in the top 4. And I don't see them doing Sandhagen versus Merab, because I don't see Cejudo taking on Umar Nurmagomedov. You know what I mean? I don't see Cejudo at this point in his career being like, give me number 11 that hasn't beaten a ranked opponent yet. I'll take him on. You know what I mean? I think he's only going to be coming back for a fight that he knows is going to put him right back in that title picture. And there's no confirming that beating Umar does that for him. So I think Henry Cejudo will look towards Merab or nothing. The UFC's going to know that, which means they're going to offer the Sandhagen-Umar Nurmagomedov fight instead, and have Sandhagen have to win 2 more before he gets his title shot. So Aljo versus Sean O'Malley, winner of that, well, Aljo, if he wins that, which I think will be the winner of that, will probably move up. Got a lot of stuff going on in the bantamweight and featherweight division, so yeah, let's get these matchups made over the next 6 months, and I think they're all going to be massive matchups. But at the end of the day, I do think that Song Yadong will beat Rob Font, man. I think his hands are a little bit too crispy. I know Yanez's looked good, but he did get hit a lot in his fights, especially in his fight with Davey Grant. He got hit a bunch, and even against Randy Costa. I was going to pick Rob Font, dude. I was going to pick Rob Font. But then I rewatched the Marlon Vera fight before the Rob Font versus Yanez prediction, and I thought there's no way he recovers from this damage. I should have picked him to win. He's a very good opponent. But, yeah, Yanez, there were some red flags there. We don't really see as many of those red flags with an opponent like Song Yadong. I'm just going to look into him right now, because the stats on this guy are absolutely crazy when you really read them out loud. So the guy is 20-7, which is a very experienced record, and he's lost a lot of those fights in the UFC, some of those fights outside the UFC, against some iffy opponents here and there, but it was early in his career. And when I say early in his career, normally you hear early in a guy's career and you think, oh, that's when they were 25 or 24. For Song Yadong, early in his career, where he had a couple losses in 2016, would make him 18 years of age. So there's not really too much to look at early in his career with some of the losses. Then he goes on a crazy win streak, gets into the UFC, wins 3-4, has a draw with Cody Stamann after an illegal knee, got a point deducted from him. Otherwise he would have won that fight. It was a majority draw. Marlon Vera, he beats him after that. Very controversial decision. Loses to Kyler Phillips, but Phillips mixed it up all over the place and popped for PEDs. Let's not forget, recently popped for PEDs, but mixed it up, wheel kicks, double legs out of nowhere, really made it difficult for Song Yadong to make adjustments. But since then, after beating Casey Kenny, he whooped up on Julio Arce, finished Marlon Moraes in the first round, had a great performance against Corey Sandhagen, and just schooled Ricky Simone in a 5-rounder. Took no damage in that fight either against Ricky Simone, has a bunch of momentum to turn right back around, and that's just... He's 25 years of age. I see this being a real snowball of momentum building for Song Yadong right now coming up the division. I think he's got a good chance to get the belt at some point as well. Rob Font, 35. You know what I mean? Those training camps are going to be getting tougher and tougher as times go on. But Rob Font, also an amazing fighter to look out for. I just want to look at that card right now. What's on there? Sterling versus O'Malley, Zhang Weili, Amanda Lemos, Cody Garbrandt, Mario Batista, Chris Weidman, Brad Tavares, which we're going to talk about. Great segue there. And Rob Font versus Song Yadong as well. So let's talk about another fight that's on that main card. Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. One should be on the prelims. I'm going to be honest. I like Weidman, but come on, let's be real. Let's get some better quality fights on the main card. He's not even ranked. I can't think of a worse matchup for Chris Weidman to take on his comeback fight. Let's talk about Weidman versus Tavares quick. I don't understand the management of Chris Weidman's career. Simple as that. There are so many fighters in the middleweight division where you could be like, this guy genuinely has a problem with grappling and he gasses out when he defends takedowns and he can be taken down and has evidence of being taken down. There are fighters like that in the middleweight division. But Chris Weidman's like, no thanks. Give me the guy who has maybe some of the most dynamic takedown defense in the middleweight division outside of some of the very top 5 fighters like Whitaker. This guy, Brad Tavares, has such good takedown defense. It's going to be a striking match between him and Weidman. And Weidman just had such a nasty leg break and has been KO'd so many times in his career. Not only that, the 185-pound weight cut has notoriously been terrible for Chris Weidman throughout his career. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I'm just going to look back how long ago it was. It was the Damian Maia fight, and it was in 2012. That's how long Weidman's been around. He's been in the UFC for over a decade. 12 years he's been in the UFC so far. But during the Damian Maia fight, he had a really bad weight cut, and that was way back then. And then he tried to move up to like heavyweight to fight Dominic Reyes, and that didn't really work out for him, and he had to make the weight cut back down. He beat Omari Akhmedov, which was a decent win, to be fair. Gets his leg snapped by Uriah Hall. I don't see him beating Brad Tavares after a leg break and all the KO losses. And now, by the time they fight, 2 years off without making middleweight, 186 pounds, he's 38 years of age. You know what I mean? He has to make 186 for the first time in 2 years off when the weight cut was already terrible for him, and he's 38. He's gone from 36 to 38. He has to make 186. Again, I don't like it for him. I think Tavares, even though he's lost his recent fight to Bruno Silva, it's not like his chin got taken by that fight. Like it could have been stopped a bit later, but it was a fine stoppage, you know what I'm saying? So it might be a quick turnaround for him, but I do think he's going to be nice and active, loose in there in the first round, and I can see him hurting Weidman on the feet or winning this fight by decision by chopping at that leg. He's got them Hawaiian calf bones, you know what I'm saying? That Polynesian bone density for Weidman to feel. So I feel like it's going to be in the back of Weidman's head. Don't see this being a good matchup for him. And Tavares has really, really good takedown defense. A couple other fights have been made recently as well. Thought I'd skim over some of those. I wanted to give my opinion on, first of all, Khalil Roundtree Jr. versus Chris Daukaus. Why? Why do we have to reschedule this again for August 12th in Nevada, Las Vegas, in the Apex? First of all, decent co-main event of a fight night. I don't mind it. But why? And the person in the comment section here on Big Marcel's Instagram page said, did we really desperately need this fight to be rebooked? Like, have Roundtree fight earlier, please. Exactly. Have Roundtree fight earlier. Why are we waiting this long for this matchup? Do they really need to see Daukaus die for sure? Are they making sure he's dead after this one? Like, this is a bad matchup in the first place for Daukaus. It doesn't make any sense to take. Unless Roundtree is also injured, which would be the only explainable situation here. If Roundtree's also injured, I'm fine with the fight being delayed. But if Roundtree's healthy to go, we don't need to wait this many months for this fight. Let's just get another fight for Roundtree on the Canada card. But instead, no. Maybe do another fight for Roundtree at some point in June. Late June, we get Khalil Roundtree versus another light heavyweight opponent. Someone that actually makes some sense. Maybe Ryan Spann steps up and takes on Khalil Roundtree. That would be a light heavyweight matchup that would make some level of sense. But no, we've got him versus Daukaus in August, which I don't mind, but I just don't see the point in waiting. Maybe Roundtree is also injured, but I just think Roundtree's going to school him, and I don't need to see this matchup. Either way, a couple other fights have been made. Billy Quarantillo versus Damon Jackson. I think that Billy Quarantillo is going to win this one. Don't think Damon Jackson has the striking to deal with him. I know Quarantillo's coming off a KO loss, so maybe it's not the best, but I do think he wins against Damon Jackson. He has a really good pace as well, and Quarantillo can he's got some good takedown defense. He's safe in different positions. He's got a good understanding of jiu-jitsu as well. So I can see Damon Jackson out grappling him for a round, but using a lot of energy to do it. And then Quarantillo starting to bring his way back into the fight later on. Another matchup that's been made. Tafon and Chukwi versus AJ Dobson. Loser gets cut. Winner stays on. I'll probably go in the favor of Tafon and Chukwi here. He's a little bit better than his recent fight suggests that he is. Marcus McGee's probably going to beat the knockoff Ilia Topuria, Gaston Bolaños. I think Marcus McGee looked great on short notice in his last fight, so I definitely think he's going to win this matchup. And then we've also got Ignacio Bahamondes, Ludovic Klein, Nashville, Tennessee, August 5th. It seems like August 5th is going to be the UFC's next big fight night crowded event that they're going to be doing, which I'm looking forward to because whenever there's a crowd nowadays, they seem to stack the cards beyond belief, whereas when there's not a crowd, they seem to find it as a bit of an excuse not to put anything good on the card whatsoever. But that's looking like it's going to be a good card. Nashville, August 5th. It's already got a bunch of great fights on there that I'm looking at now. Looking forward to it. Any more fights to talk about? OSP versus Ion Cutelaba. Why is OSP still fighting? Cutelaba's probably going to knock him out. If Cutelaba loses this, he should retire from MMA forever and never fight again. It's time to pick up an office job. Just going to be honest with you. This is a UFC basically saying, hey Cutelaba, this is your last chance to get a win streak together. You're coming off a win. Please, for the love of God, put more than one win together in a row. We'll even give you OSP to do it. If he doesn't beat OSP, cut the loser, essentially, is what should happen here. Like and subscribe. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Massive fights announced. I like it. Rob Font versus Song Yadong, which basically puts together all of the other matchups in the bantamweight division. Goodbye.